Horatius by Thomas Babington Macaulay, and I'm going to enter my comments where the text at hand has omissions. Lars Porsena of Clusium, by the 9 gods he swore, that the great house of Tarquin should suffer wrong no more. By the 9 gods he swore it, and named a trysting day, and bade his messengers ride forth, east and west and south and north to summon his array. East and west and south and north the messengers ride fast, and tower and town and cottage have heard the trumpet's blast. The horsemen and the footmen are pouring in amain, from many a stately marketplace, from many a fruitful plain. And I'm not saying that everything I come across that people call gods is a god. Like, for example, the word is probably daemons, or daemon. And I don't mean psychologically, I mean these male and female beings that can be corresponding, if you got that. I got the daemons, but jinn is the term, but not all jinn are shayateen, you know, jinn. Some people say that honest paganism, as people call it, is Satanism, because you're worshiping, you know, the entities that Christianity calls demons. And now hath every city sent up her tale of men. The foot are 80,000, the horse are thousands 10. Before the gates of Sutrium is met the great array. A proud man was Lars Porsena upon the trysting day. One of the things about Celtic mythology is Celtic mythology tends to focus on the local, tribal, national versus the universal. It has that, but the focus of the mythology is away from the universal. So each area having their heroes and their tales. And but by the yellow Tiber was tumult and affright. From all the spacious Champagne to Rome and took their flight. A mile round the city, the throng stopped up the ways. A fearful sight it was to see through 2 long nights and days. Champagne's kind of, I've never had the alcoholic beverage, but the vinegar, it's one of those vinegars that you can tell it's that vinegar. Now from the rock, Tarpeian, could the wan burghers spy the line of blazing villages, red in the midnight sky. The fathers of the city, they set all night and day. For every hour some horsemen came with tidings of dismay. Well, in the middle of battle, you do have to constantly report. But the constant fires does elicit a vulnerability, because they don't have to think twice. It's, oh, fire over there, so here's where the villages are. They held a council standing before the river gate. Short time was there, ye may well guess, from musing our debate. Outspoke the consul roundly, the bridge must straight go down, for since Janiculum is lost, naught else can save the town. Just then a scout came flying, all wild with haste and fear. To arms, Sir Consul, Lars Porsena is here. On the low hills to the westward, the consul fixed his eye, and saw the swarthy storm of dust rise fast along the sky. And nearer, fast and nearer, doth the red whirlwind come, and louder still, and still more loud, from underneath that rolling cloud, is heard the trumpet's war note proud, the trampling and the hum. And plainly, and more plainly, now through the gloom appears, far to left and far to right, in broken gleams of dark blue light, the long array of helmets bright, the long array of spears. And it kind of would help if we went back to what we used to, and each group, you know, you could identify by their music and and stuff who they were. Now, not that there can't be a personal pattern on your clothes or something, but the consul's brow was sad, and the consul's speech was low, and darkly looked he at the wall, and darkly at the foe. Their van will be upon us before the bridge goes down, and if they once may win the bridge, what hope to save the town? Then outspoke brave Horatius, the captain of the gate, to every man upon this earth death cometh soon or late. And how can man die better than facing fearful odds? For the ashes of his fathers and the temples of his gods, hew down the bridge, Sir Consul, with all the speed you may. I, with 2 more to help me, will hold the foe in play. And yon straight path 1,000 may well be stopped by 3. Now who will stand on either hand and keep the bridge with me? Then outspake Spurius Lartius, a Ramnian proud was he. Lo, I will stand at thy right hand, and keep the bridge with thee. And outspake strong Herminius, of Teton blood was he. I will abide on thy left side, and keep the bridge with thee. Horatius, quoth the consul, as thou sayest, so let it be. And straight against that great array forth went the dauntless 3. Now while the 3 were tightening their harness on their backs, the consul was the foremost man to take in hand an axe, and fathers mixed with commons seized hatchet, bar, and crow, and smote upon the planks above and loosened the props below. If it's something major to be done, certainly the rulers in the world need to get together and do things like there's not a difference. Meanwhile, the Tuscan army, right glorious to behold, came flashing back the noonday light, rank behind rank, like surges bright of a broad sea of gold. 400 trumpets sounded, a peal of warlike glee, as that great host, with measured tread, and spears advanced and ensigns spread, rolled slowly toward the bridge's head, where stood the dauntless 3. The 3 stood calm and silent, and looked upon the foes, and a great shout of laughter from all the vanguard rose. And forth 3 chiefs came spurring before the mighty mass. To earth they sprang, their swords they drew, and lifted high their shields, and flew to win the narrow pass. Aunus from green to Fernum, lord of the hill of vines, and Sias, whose 800 slaves sicken in Elba's mines, and Picus, long to Clusium, vassal in peace and war, who led the fight his Umbrian powers from that grey crag where, girt with towers, the fortress of Equinum towers o'er the pale waves of Nar. Stout Lartius hurled down Aunus in the stream beneath. Herminius struck at Sias and clove him to the teeth. At Picus brave Horatius darted one fiery thrust, and the proud Umbrians' gilded arms clashed in the bloody dust. And different ranks and different roles do matter. I'm not saying that when it comes time that something needs to be done, that you should just, everybody breaks out and does what they feel, you know. But now no sound of laughter was heard amongst the foes. A wild and wrathful clamor from all the vanguard rose. 6 spears' length from the entrance halted that mighty mass, and for a space no man came forth to win the narrow pass. But hark, the cry is austere, and lo, the ranks divide, and the great lord of Luna comes with his stately stride. Upon his ample shoulders clangs loud the fourfold shield, and in his hand he shakes the brand, which none but he can wield. He smiled on those bold Romans, a smile serene and high. He eyed the flinching Tuscans, and scorn was in his eye. Quoth he, the she-wolf's litter stand savagely at bay. But will ye dare to follow, if Astur clears the way? Then whirling up his broadsword, with both hands to the height, he rushed against Horatius, and smote with all his might. With shield and blade Horatius right deftly turned the blow. The blow, though turned, came yet too nigh. It missed his helm, but gnashed his thigh. The Tuscans raised a joyful cry to see the red blood flow. He reeled, and on Herminius he leaned one breathing space, and like a wild cat mad with wounds, sprang right at Astur's face. Through teeth and skull and helmet, so fierce a thrust he sped. The good sword stood a handbreadth out behind the Tuscan's head, and the great lord of Luna fell at that deadly stroke, as falls on Mount Avernus a thunder-smitten oak. For o'er the crashing forest the giant arms lie spread, and the pale augurs, muttering low, gaze on the blasted head. On Astur's throat Horatius rightly firmly pressed his heel, and thrice and 4 times tugged amain, ere he wrenched out the steel. And see, he cried, the welcome, fair guests, that waits you here. What noble Lacumo comes next to taste our Roman cheer. And when it does come to arms, it's important to be very deliberate. And you can be very quick about that too. But meanwhile, axe and lever had manfully been plied, and now the bridge hangs tottering above the boiling tide. Come back, Horatius! Loud cried the fathers all. Back, Lartius! Back, Herminius! Back ere the ruin fall. Back darted Spurius, Lartius. Herminius darted back, and as they passed beneath their feet, they felt the timbers crack. But when they turned their faces, and on the further shore saw brave Horatius stand alone, they would have crossed no more. But with a crash like thunder fell every loosened beam, and like a dam the mighty wreck lay right athwart the stream. And a long shout of triumph rose from the walls of Rome, as to the highest turret tops was plashed the yellow foam. And one doesn't commit suicide in the battle, but there are what you call suicide missions. Alone stood brave Horatius, but constant still in mind. Thrice 30,000 foes before, and the broad flood behind. Down with him, cried false Sextus, with a smile on his pale face. Now yield thee, cried Lars Porsenna, now yield thee to our grace. Round turned he, as not deigning those craven ranks to see. Not spake he to Lars Porsenna, to Sextus not spake he. But he saw on Palatinus the white porch of his home, and he spake to the noble river that rolls by the towers of Rome. O Tiber, father Tiber, to whom the Romans pray, a Roman's life, a Roman's arms, take thou in charge this day. So he spake, and speaking sheathed the good sword by his side, and with his harness on his back plunged headlong in the tide. No sound of joy or sorrow was heard from either bank, Up friends and foes, in dumb surprise, with parted lips and straining eyes, stood gazing where he sank. And when above the surges they saw his crest appear, all Rome sent forth a rapturous cry, and even the ranks of Tuscany could scarce forbear to cheer. Fiercely ran the current, swollen high by months of rain, and fast his blood was flowing, and he was sore in pain, and heavy with his armor, and spent with clinging blows, and oft they thought him sinking, but still again he rose. Well, you gotta take your chance, right? And now he feels the bottom. Now on dry earth he stands. Now round him throng the fathers to press his gory hands. And now with shouts and clapping, and noise of weeping loud, he enters through the river gate, borne by the joyous crowd. And why are we going to war, right? What principles are we living in war? Because it really shouldn't be, is the hero on our side or their side? Oh, the hero's on their side. Yeah, we need to get beyond that. Obviously, we have to take the side that we're on to some degree.